do not know if I did that for Trisha Paytas, but also I do recognize that it's a possibility. Also, Oliver, what are you doing, dude? Hey there. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. As I'm expecting this video to be posted shortly before the new year. Definitely this will be my last
first video in 2021.
2020. Which makes me just a little bit sad that I only had a few videos with my holiday decor up, but I'm glad that it was crystallized for the internet forever, my holiday decorations. So in my last video, I told you guys that I would be doing essentially like a year in review, a YouTube rewind as it relates to me and my channel in my first year on YouTube. If you're watching this, you are probably one of my subscribers or somebody who watches my videos regularly. I thank you so much for caring enough about me and what I have to say to come to a video like this that isn't your standard commentary video. So I'm so grateful and at times overwhelmed by everything that happened this year with YouTube and my online presence. So I thought it could be fun to go back and just kind of like last week. I have no notes. I mean, not really. I've got something to look at. But maybe just kind of like scroll through and let's just kind of like look back on everything that happened this year. And I know that I will probably pat myself on the back for one or two things that happened this year. So if you are not a fan of that, then watch at your own risk. Why do you care? Why are you watching this video? I don't know. Some people are not a fan of me talking myself up, and that's okay. That's why you're here, because you get it. I'm just rambling at this point. This is a super quick reminder to like this video and subscribe to my channel if that's something you want to do. If that's not something you want to do, just don't. I'll shut up and start talking now. So if I'm not mistaken, I started my YouTube channel on January 28th. So I'm going to double check that. We'll see if we can list all of my videos by oldest to newest. Okay. My first video was called Commentary or Drama, and it was actually posted on January 24th. I am nervous to even go back and try to watch any of my first few videos, try to like deal with my on-camera presence, but also looking at like my editing at that time. This video isn't intended for anyone to watch, really. It's not something I'm going to be promoting on my social media or within my, immediate network. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but if you are here watching this and you're someone other than myself, then thank you so much. I've already kind of decided that I'm just going to talk for a little bit and not agonize over how I sound, how I look, but I do remember I made that video and posted it without telling anybody in my life that I was going to be doing it. I didn't tell Jake that I was going to be doing it. I didn't tell my Facebook friends or any of my social media. I kind of alluded to it, I think, on my Instagram or Facebook. I might have posted like a thumbnail and been like, oh, I did a thing. But I remember the reason, I've said this so many times, so you might already know this, but I find myself at 35 to be one of the few people my age that actually cares to watch YouTube content and get invested in the lives and the platforms of the people that create content for YouTube. And this is nothing new for me. I've watched YouTube subscriptions since I would say about 2008 or so. And I've had friends here and there that were kind of in the OG YouTube scene. And it took me a good 12 years before I decided that I wanted to post a video, at least in this format. So I'm rambling. Point is, nobody in my life cared to talk about these things or could follow any of these topics. So I figured if we want to talk about them, if I've got opinions and I'm tired of putting them in comment sections and I just want to sit down and talk it all out and see if there's anybody who cares to have these conversations with me, I'll just do it. I'll just freaking make YouTube videos. And so that's what I sat down to do. And it's funny because it's served its purpose in that I'm not trying to bog down my loved ones who don't understand YouTube with the goings on of YouTube. But at the same time, because I do this, inevitably certain people closest to me are now interested in these things. So it's cool. It's actually in a way brought me closer to the people that I love. So that's cool. So probably my most viewed video, Gabbie Hanna, A History of Scandals and Controversies. I published this video on February 8th, and I want to look at kind of where I've marked some milestones because I'm a nerd with spreadsheets. I made that video with zero expectation of that being seen by anyone. Boy, was I wrong. Okay, so I guess in that first month or so on YouTube, I amassed 126 subscribers, which was so cool. 126 people that cared what I had to say about anything. It was really cool just to have 126. I remember being so excited. And then on February 19th, so this is 11 days after posting my Gabbie Hanna video, I saw a burst of growth. And I jumped from 126 subscribers to 1.6K. And I remember being with Jake that weekend. We wanted to go on kind of like a weekend or a day trip somewhere. And I was checking my YouTube creator app and just watching more and more people were subscribing to my channel. And I was like, what is happening? Which is funny and ironic because we all know that my channel really saw its growth from me covering my thoughts on Gabbie Hanna. And, but that's been a point of contention, of course, because not only will we talk about what happened later in the year, but it's one of those things that I get criticized for talking about her. But at the same time, that is what initially caught people's attention when it comes to my channel. And it is a topic that I was really interested in terms of what was going on this time last year. I was interested in what was going on around Gabbie Hanna and Jessi Smiles and Trisha, Gabbie DiMartino. And that's, I think, where I really started to have a lot of these conversations online and what made me kind of want to start my channel. And it turns out that success follows passion and not the other way around, because I didn't expect this. So yes, on February 19th, I saw a burst of growth to 1.6K. Over the next few weeks, I would continue to see that number grow, in my opinion, pretty fast. And on March 8th, I celebrated hitting 10K subscribers. 10,000 people. There are a lot of times that I consider my channel tiny. My platform is tiny. It's a baby. It's a little tiny platform. And of course, relatively speaking, it is compared to some people. But just trying to wrap my head around 10,000 people caring about what I had to say at some point about anything was crazy to me. It is crazy. So that was really cool. I celebrated with a coworker that was equally interested in YouTube stuff and really excited for me. So I remember that happening. How I was able to get these videos up while I was also going into an office every day, I don't know how I did it. I'm going to have to figure out how to do it again. But I just remember that time being so much fun. I remember it being a big deal when I hit 25K as well. But I didn't write that down on my little spreadsheet here. However, I know that I posted to Instagram on May 16th. On May 16th, I celebrated 25K, but we're not there yet. So I remember that being a really, really big moment too. And of course, we've kind of hung out around that number since then, which is totally cool. I do remember feeling at the time overwhelmed, like I said. I remember it's not all good. It was a kind of an anxious time for me because I was now realizing that I'm so much more exposed than I ever was. I had people DMing me every day. I had people commenting on my YouTube videos every day. And I remember I would do my best to address every single comment. And I remember on that little day trip with Jake, I really had to kind of deal with, I'm getting negative comments. I'm getting mean comments, and a lot. Not a lot of mean comments, but I was talking about YouTube drama, commentary stuff. And of course, that's polarizing stuff. So you get a lot of good comments, you get bad comments. And it was just a lot for me to take in that much feedback all at once. So I do remember Jake being kind of my rock, while I dealt with just how overwhelming. That's the only word that I can come up with to describe how that felt. I had to learn, quite honestly, how to take criticism and meanness and all of that in a very short time. So I don't know how some people do it, that just kind of become viral successes overnight, and how people do it when they become famous at 20 years old. I would not be able to handle that. So kudos to you if you're one of those. So I remember in those first few months of the year, I was kind of experimenting with different formats. I talked about some more personal stuff, mental health related stuff. I talked about how anxiety and depression manifest in my life when I was 34, my 12-step journey. Then I did kind of these mini videos where I would talk about two topics, YouTube drama related topics, or just conversation inducing topics that centered around YouTubers. And actually, I think that was kind of, that style actually worked for me. So maybe we do a little bit more of that. Maybe we cover 2 stories per video, and go back to that format. Yeah, here we have Trisha's Strange Jason Vlogs, Gabbie Apologizes, another video, Tana and Logan Dating, and another Gabbie rant. Yes, you're going to hear about Gabbie a lot in this video. I started a series called Ask Alicia. That was fun, but at the same time, did not do anything for my channel, and at the same time felt just a little more self-important than I would like for it to be, although I do like being asked questions. I remember at that time, the kind of how I was being branded, or how I was branding myself, or how I was coming off, was kind of like big sister energy, like the big sister of YouTube is what I was becoming. So I do like the concept of giving advice, and would like to return to that. But I remember at the time it being like, okay, this is cool, but it's kind of weird. So moving along, I told some more personal stories. And then there was, I think it was April-ish? March is when all of the drama around Trisha Paytas, Anthony Padilla, Dissociated, and Mikey, kind of all of that started to go down. And of course, we know I made a handful of videos around that time, or over, those next couple of months. And the funny thing about that situation is that, I was criticized for a few things. One of those things being that I wanted to make a point that, if you don't recall, Trisha Paytas came out with a video where she claimed to have DID after watching Anthony Padilla's video interviewing Dissociated. The video Trisha put out was riddled with misinformation, upset a lot of people, hurt a lot of people, and caused kind of just a shitstorm of drama around Trisha Paytas that, unfortunately, I don't think she wanted to bring on herself, but she did. And I remember at that time, a couple of things happened that, for me, felt like, okay, this is off kilter. I want to talk about this. And one of the criticisms towards Trisha that a lot of people were giving was that she used the word crazy when describing Dissociated, or Nin of Dissociated, of the Dissociated system. But at the same time, watching Anthony Padilla's response and his girlfriend Mikey's response to Trisha's video, I felt was at least equally offensive to the mental health of another person. We saw the infamous eye roll that a lot of people just wished I would shut up about. Mikey kind of rolling her eyes at Trisha watching her video, Anthony doing this like right click permanent delete or move to trash, I think is what the image was that he put up on the screen. This was, I think, the first time that I realized that I am going to get criticized if I sound like I am siding with somebody that the internet doesn't like, or if I sound like I am siding with somebody who is at the center of whatever criticism is being given around that situation. While I wanted to make a point about what makes a good mental health advocate or what not to do, I didn't like it then. I didn't like the way I didn't like the whole move to trash thing. It doesn't matter who we were talking about. I didn't like it. I didn't like that Anthony Padilla is this like super woke guy, right? And so by association, you assume that his girlfriend is also like at least medium woke, is it fair to say? And so the idea of just kind of like brushing off, rolling your eyes, moving to trash anybody based on a mental health claim, I thought was just so out of line. And I was early on in my YouTube career. I mean, I still am. Hello. But I probably should have made one video and let it go. But I did. I made a series of videos and the conversation continued. And I really liked, actually, I was really enjoying it. I made a few rant videos where I would look at the comments and then I would kind of further explain my thinking around this. And so it provided a good bit of content and conversation, but I was getting a lot of criticism for, again, sounding like I was siding with Trisha Paytas when really I was criticizing Mikey. Now, to pat myself on the back a little bit, cut to 6 months later, Mikey is exposed, canceled, whatever you want to call it, for having these very like not socially conscious views. And a lot of you guys reached out to me to say sorry for criticizing me about that time. Or I had a lot of comments that said, helloleesh clocked this 6 months ago. So that was kind of validating. It was one of those things where I was glad that I stuck to my guns, that I stuck to my unpopular opinion at that time. But I also was recognizing that I needed to pay attention to what criticism was very valid. And I think that was when, oh man, is that when I posted a video crying? We're gonna kind of jump a little bit here and there because there are different storylines, right? I laughed with my patrons last night saying that I am the, TV stereotype of what a YouTuber is, like D on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, just kind of like crying on camera for the whole world to see. But yeah, April 19th was when I posted a video basically saying that I was kind of trying to navigate this space and how to make content and, figuring out how much of that criticism to take in, but also where to put my foot down with my content and push forward with the concept and trust my gut. That's what I knew I needed to work on at that time, that was going to be a period of growth for me. Yeah, I hate seeing that thumbnail of me crying, but I remember it was just me wanting to be very honest with my audience. So going back a little bit, I started to do some mental health videos when lockdown started, with all of everything that came along with COVID and everybody that throwing the world into a tailspin and me being home alone all the time. I started to feel the effects of isolation and what that does to a person's mental health. I don't think that there's any avoiding it. I think it's a brain chemistry thing. Side note, I had a therapist tell me once that if one isolates for too long, your brain goes through the same process that a herd animal does when it goes off by itself to die a slow death. And like, that's so sad. And I thought about that a lot during that time, that's kind of what I was feeling, with the lack of human interaction. Even though I had more time now to kind of connect with my newfound audience, I was basically having to cope with a lot of anxiety. And the more I talked to other people, I realized that a lot of my followers were also going through a lot of the same thing. So I created an emotional support group. Initially, I think it was supposed to be for new YouTubers, and then I just kind of opened it up to anybody who wanted to be a part of it, just so that we could kind of check on each other and maybe provide like support for each other, of course, but also like hacks that maybe we've learned that'll help us with our anxiety or depression or whatever we're feeling. And then, of course, a bunch of you encouraged me to start my own Patreon, which I thought was ridiculous. Even sometimes I think it's ridiculous for me to have a Patreon at 30K, but I did it. And I remember that providing a space really where I could really just kind of let it all out and connect with people better and get away from the comment section of my videos, because we're talking about April-ish at this point, March and April. I was really starting to realize that, one, I can't keep up with these comments anymore. And two, I don't think that I should. I don't think that it's good for me. And I kind of had to figure out where I wanted to spend my time online while fostering this new part-time job, essentially, but a really big venture nonetheless. How I was going to manage that, but still maintain my sanity and make sure that I'm fostering my own well-being. So, yeah, I remember starting a Patreon around that time, and it was amazing. It was a really great place for us all to kind of just keep each other sane, is really, I remember at that time what we were focused on. But also around that time, I decided to further the History of Scandals and Controversies series by doing one on James Charles. And it's interesting because that was never really my intention. I never intended to make that a series. I don't remember what my original video title was for the Gabbie Hanna video, but the thumbnail was awful, and the title was probably just something about how like Gabbie Hanna lies or something like that. And so when I went through and I decided to kind of clean up all of my titles and thumbnails, I changed that to Gabbie Hanna, A History of Scandals and Controversies, because that essentially is what that was. And then that kind of just lent itself to a concept for a series that would actually be something that my audience seems to love. So that was really cool. I did have fun with the James Charles one. I had fun doing my makeup for it and having a different format and, research and doing something a little different. Oh, and going back to the whole Anthony and Mikey thing, I'm going to pat myself on the back another time because, well, let's ask a question. Because I also saw this on my little spreadsheet. So around the time, if I can find this, I'm going to put it on the screen. Around the time that I was posting these rant videos, right, towards Mikey and Anthony, primarily, for being, in my opinion, bad mental health advocates, right? I saw this comment on my video, and it looked like it was from Trisha Paytas. It would look like her profile picture. It had her name, and I had to do a double take, triple take, quadruple take. And I just remember, I'll have to go back and find it. I remember Trisha Paytas starting off her comment on my video with the words, "as per your video." I remember her saying that, "as per your video," as if she had already been talking about things that weren't my video. But going back, I remember reading that, and I had been pretty scathing at this point. I was being critical of Trisha as well, especially because I remember at that time she decided to kind of like amp up the troll. And I was like, dude, I sounded like I was going to bat for you. And now you're being a troll. And, everybody in this situation is wrong in some way. And I'm going to point it out to all of you. But she did point out in her comment that she appreciated, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, she appreciated somebody understanding why she was hurt by Anthony and Mikey. And so I remember at the time, my followers and friends that were close to me asking like, "Oh, what are you going to do?" Like, How are you going to respond to this? And, you know, it was a little bit panic inducing because it was like, well, do I be nice to her? Do I really like lay into her? But then I thought, wait a minute, you're this new commentator on YouTube and you're criticizing people and offering your opinions on what's going on their platforms. And one of the biggest creators on this platform saw your video and took something from it. I remember telling my patrons, I was like, actually, if you think about it, this is a commentator's dream, is to have a creator actually pay attention to your criticism and take it in. I shouldn't say that, criticism in regards to her appreciating, the sentiment, the empathy that I had in that situation. But at the same time, she also posted probably about a minute long series of stories on Instagram where she talked about my videos, and she recognized that I wasn't somebody who was necessarily a stan and a ride or die for her, but yet somebody who had criticism for her. And I remember her saying,
so to roll your eyes at her, to say to move her to trash, or to move her opinions to trash, or whatever you want to say they were referring to, was tacky behavior. It was rude, it was tactless, and it was bad form on behalf of the mental health advocacy community. Because if you were to roll your eyes at Jenna Marbles, if you were to say move to trash Jenna Marbles, Shane Dawson, any other beloved creator, there would be an uproar. So my opinion of the way Anthony and Mikey handled that situation really had nothing to do with Trisha. Now, Trisha deserves even more than that. She deserves more than that. She deserves a lot more criticism than an eye roll from Mikey, but she deserves to be handled in a way that is appropriate, that reflects positively on the mental health community. And I personally don't think that Anthony and Mikey are doing a good job of representing that community.
Just know that my heart is really good, I promise. I'm getting in my feels watching that girl's video that I showed a clip of, and the girl really doesn't like me and thinks I deserve to be canceled. So it's not like she's like standing me, but you know, you start getting in your head, and I'm like, wow, people really think I'm like this evil person. I'm trying to hurt people, and I'm never trying to. I really am just trying to belong and fit in and find my way and find out who I am in this world. I have not had my own identity for as long as I can remember, and it's scary, and not to get all deep and dark all of a sudden, but it's like I'm just trying to figure out my best, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody, and I'm just sharing my truths and how I feel.
That after watching my video, she kind of felt like, is this how people think of me? They want me to leave the internet. I don't want people to think this of me. So I didn't think about it at the time, but kind of as time has gone on, especially this year, although there's always drama around Trisha Paytas, I noticed that she had become over time less and less problematic. The DID trolling kind of stopped, and though drama did find her, she didn't seem to go seek it out as actively as before. So I've had some conversations with people here and there, just wondering, like, did my videos have some sort of impact on Trisha Paytas? For real. I don't know. Maybe one day I'll get a chance to ask her if my videos had any sort of impact on her behavior in 2020. And I know somebody's going to take a clip of me or comment here about me being so full of myself that I think I could change Trisha Paytas. But it's possible, dude. Hey, come on over. Come on. Looks like my co-host might be joining us. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's probable. I wouldn't say that, but it is possible. And so I thought that was it's a really cool thought. It's a really interesting concept as a commentator, to hear that anybody is hearing your criticism and intuiting that, and perhaps that helping their personal growth. Like I said, do not know if I did that for Trisha Paytas, but also I do recognize that it's a possibility. Also, Oliver, what are you doing, dude? Funny though, because this is where that was actually right around the time that I started my Trisha Paytas, A History of Scandals and Controversies series. And I expected that to be I expected it to be like a 2 or 3-parter. I knew that it was going to be more than just one video because not only is Trisha Paytas such a dramatic and problematic creator, but she's also been on the platform for so long. Turns out it took me all freaking year to just catch up to 2019 to catch up to 2019. And it turns out that was 5 parts. You guys seem to be really receptive to that series, so that was cool. YouTubers who can't take criticism. 7 months ago, I talked about Jeffree Star and Gabbie Hanna. I think this was after my crying video. It was the next one. And I think this was around the time that I was starting to feel like I was hitting my stride. And kind of figuring out how I wanted to present myself online and how I wanted to talk about these issues. I was just becoming more comfortable, I think, in general. I continued the Trisha Paytas series, talked about some other little things here and there that, of course, don't really, matter right now. Shallon Lester. Remember that happened this year? Where D'Angelo kind of shone a light on Shallon Lester and how problematic she is. And I talked about her. I had so many people in my DMs asking me to please talk about Shallon Lester. And I'm like, I don't know who this lady is. But then I watched D'Angelo's video. I watched a bunch of other videos and I was like, oh, I do want to talk about this lady. It was actually, going back, I didn't even mention that it was back in March too that Amber and I decided to start the Girlmance podcast, which of course is on hiatus right now. Seriously, I needed to free up some of my time, so we'll see when that picks back up. But just bearing in mind that in conjunction with all of these things going on, we were also having similar conversations over there on that channel. Well, actually, it was on my main channel, and then we were able to move it to its own channel. I analyzed some apologies. Well, not apologies. I analyzed Colleen Ballinger's apology, and then analyzed Gabbie Hanna's what I called non-apology expose video. I remember that time being... It was fun. Those videos were fun to make. They got a good bit of views too. So, I don't know what else to say. Those are some of my favorite videos, but for sure, got me in some trouble. After that, I finally did my video Love Lockdown, where I was really just interested in people's relationships because of Trisha and Moses entering a relationship right as the lockdown was starting in their area, and Carly and Contro and her boyfriend Nolan got together right before the lockdown. I was really interested in kind of how the lockdown was affecting new relationships, where people were entering relationships and then kind of stuck together all the time. So that was a passion project where I worked with a few subscribers. And it was a really cool thing, but it was also, I remember it being super stressful because I just for the life of me could not get to it. Black Lives Matter. I remember that video. I remember really being very happy with the message that I got across in terms of how I felt. Of course, that was a time where if you spoke out on that, you lost subscribers. I remember losing subscribers around that time. And I just remember being well, good riddance. Don't need you watching my videos anyway. I'm not going to pull a Mikey and call it a badge of honor. It's not a badge of honor. It is just kind of trimming some of the fat though. Oh, okay. And then here we start the summer of Gabbie Hanna. I mean, I'm tempted to go through and tell the whole story, but I really I have a video where I talked for an hour and a half about this whole story. But, just me as a budding commentary channel, if you want to call me a drama channel, whatever, either way, it's what I consider a hate channel, by Gabbie Hanna's standards. One of her new friends reached out to me and kind of this sparked some sort of conversation around hate and criticism and all of that. And this is at the same time that Gabbie Hanna was going through what she describes as a mental breakdown. She and I got into it on Twitter, and then we talked on the phone and were friendly for a couple of days, right? And then, things just didn't go well, in my opinion. And after a couple of days, I decided I wanted to end that relationship or connection or whatever you want to call it. And man, did that blow up in my face. But message to literally anybody. If you tell Gabbie Hanna you don't want to talk to her anymore, she is going to make life difficult for you, and she is going to make it sound like she made that decision. And that is what happened. I remember that time. Let's talk about that. I remember that time being it tested my sobriety. I remember that because I was already starting to finally get a handle on my anxiety in quarantine. And then I told Gabbie Hanna that I was not happy with something she said about me on a live stream, and that I would like to just kind of close our line of communication. I'm going to explain this, generally to my subscribers, why I was hot and cold about her, and that just completely backfired, and it resulted in I don't know how many stans coming to me and into my DMs and comments everywhere just telling me how awful of a person I was. I will say, in all honesty, I got way more love and support than hate. In terms of like messages that I was getting, a lot of people were concerned for me at that time, and just recognized that what was happening was not good. My patrons were really freaking fantastic. I've talked about the big six. These were people that really rallied around me and helped me get through that time. I've talked about this before. I haven't said it publicly on my main channel, but I remember when the messages started to roll in, and like I said, it tested my sobriety. I stopped and I thought, how am I going to just survive this? I need to survive this, and I don't have anybody around. I live alone. My boyfriend is long distance. How am I going to survive this? And the best solution that I could come up with was to hop on a Patreon live. I was like, I'm just going to, my patrons are people who are really great at being there for me, and I'm just going to hop on camera. So QD, again, from It's Always Sunny. Apparently that's who I am. I just remember sobbing. Oh my God, I was sobbing so much. But ugly crying, the kind where you're like gasping for air and just asking like, how am I going to get through this? Why would somebody do this to me? And then somebody suggested that we get on a Google Hangout, and then getting to see 12 or 15 or so people kind of like it was so mind-boggling, because doing a live stream is one thing, right? Where it almost kind of feels like a one-on-one conversation sometimes. Like it feels like, or maybe you're like on the phone with a couple of friends, but you're really the one kind of on stage and in control of the conversation. But when you actually see your audience, even if it is just 12 or 15 people that are showing up for you, that was so incredible. I was like, oh my God, here I'm looking at, like I said, 12 to 15 people that are doing nothing right now, but being here for me to help get me through this situation. So if you were one of those people, I thank you so much. I owe a piece of my sobriety to you, and I mean that. So I was really grateful to have those people. And I remember feeling like, okay, this is going to suck probably for a while, but I'm going to get through this. It's going to be okay. And it was. And it's not always fun, but thus is the nature of being a YouTuber, I'm learning. Oh my God. Okay. So, let's just be real. On the heels of dealing with Gabbie Hanna and her stans and that drama kind of dying down, there was an ex-fan of Gabbie Hanna's that reached out to me, and maybe just go watch the video. Basically, just this very awful situation happened with this young woman who. It was stuff out of the movies. It was that kind of stuff where lying, deception, making up people, and things like deaths, and just all. Oh my God! Just go look for the video. If you don't know about that situation, oh my God! And like, of course, that situation lent its hand to another situation with somebody else, and it was just like a chain over the summer. It was just like a chain of dealing with like craziness, like insanity, dealing with like the ire and anger and aggression of one person and their platform to dealing with extreme mental illness of another person and not even knowing the breadth of it, and that all falling upon me, to dealing with essentially the depth and the breadth of somebody else's mental illness. And it was just like one after the other after the other. And I think just like I don't want to call it drama, because a lot of that stuff was not, by my definition, drama, but let's just call it like insanity. I think insanity begets insanity. And so it was kind of like, how do I break this cycle of these crazy situations just happening one after the other? And so somehow we were able to get through it. I think at that time, I didn't make many videos. Yeah, between 3 months ago and 5 months ago, there was one video in between, and that's where I told that story. So I remember at that time, I think I was just really backing off from YouTube a good bit. I just didn't have, I think, the emotional capacity, the mental capacity to like consume YouTube content and have anything to say about it. But then I decided to like get back on the horse. That was around the time that Shane Dawson was being canceled, and a lot of people were asking the question of whether or not I would talk about Gabbie Hanna again on my channel. And I remember this was another situation where I was like, I need to put my foot down. Of course, some people were advising that I not talk about her anymore. And I said, no, that I wouldn't be silenced. Like, why would I let this person, why would I give them what they wanted as a result of a targeted harassment or a hate mob? Like, I'm not going to stop doing what I do because this person tried to ruin my life in one way or another. So, yeah, that's where I told you guys that would continue. I made a couple of videos where I kind of stepped back from my involvement with Gabbie Hanna and gave my thoughts on what was going on with her. And also, I will say about the whole hate mob situation, it really did introduce me to some content creators that were really just like freaking supportive. I will say, I'm just gonna say names, like I'm not afraid to say it. I remember Creepshow Art having something really negative to say about me as I was like in my sobbing and like, how am I going to deal with this? Creepshow Art being like, oh my God, whoever the person is that would do this to to Gabbie is just like essentially calling me a really bad person. For what? I don't know. But I did kind of get a chance to connect with the high school bullies, the Jessi Smiles, Dent, Alx James, finding them to be really like wonderful, caring people. I also, either around this time or a little before it, I started to talk a little bit more to creators like Footless Jo and Rachel Oates. And I'm really grateful to those ladies for really reaching out to me and offering to be almost kind of like mentors, as they knew the journey that I was starting on. So I know I'm kind of bouncing around here, but super grateful to those people as well for helping me get through that time. Then, let's see, I did a video or two where I talked about my past. I also bleached the shit out of my hair and ended up cutting it. That was sad. I'm still dealing with that. It's not so bad now that I'm figuring out how to style it, but I do miss my old hair. But I did make it to 8 years sober, and which is coincidentally, I'm wearing an outfit where you can see my 8th bird. I don't really care to show y'all, to do a whole like tattoo tour, not with my quarantine weight, but I get a tattoo every year on my sobriety anniversary, which also happens to fall 4 days after the anniversary of my brother's death. And these were both things that I talked about on my channel. And these were basically dates that I knew that it would be a big accomplishment if I got to those dates. And I would be very proud of myself given everything that has gone on this year, and how many times I was really tested. So I got like I was saying, I get a tattoo every year of a bird on my torso. And so we started like low, down kind of like on my hip and moving up, and the goal is to spread them across my back. But here we are on number 8. Your girl made it, and like I said, I owe a portion of that to a lot of you guys, so thank you. Yeah, and then here we are back to some more present day type of topics where we talked about frenemies. We talked about Mikey getting canceled, and I tried my best to hide it in that video, but I was reveling in a whole like kind of told you so moment. But in all seriousness, that was where I started to realize that I actually am a good judge of character, and I should definitely stick with my instincts. If I have a gut feeling about a situation or a person, I should probably pay attention and trust that. And it took 6 months, but we realized Mikey's truth. And yeah, turns out I had a reason not to feel good about that girl. Some shit went down with some choice people on Twitter, some of Twitter's finest. Talked about that, and here we are today talking about Charlie and Dixie D'Amelio and Alx James and Gabbie Hanna and frenemies and all of that. And oh my God, like, we've made it to the end of 2020. And I will say that while I recognize the seriousness of the global pandemic and just how awful this has been for so many people in so many different ways, whether that be the loss of loved ones, not getting to see loved ones and losing them, people losing their jobs. Of course, I dealt with that a lot. It's the nature of my full-time, but we're still in it. And so I don't want to downplay the seriousness of what 2020 is. But we really just saw a year that none of us living, really has been through anything like what we experienced this year. And somehow we're still here. You and me, we're still here, and finding ways to adjust and adapt and to just make it through each day. And I don't know what my second year on YouTube is going to bring. I hope that it is as enjoyable as the first. I'm hoping that I kind of start to finesse the art of what I do a little bit more and see some stability in how my audience receives me and how I receive you guys. So yeah, just thank you guys. Thank you guys for everything you gave me this year. I don't deserve you. I don't know that anybody does. But those of you that have rallied around me, that the people who are my followers and subscribers, I'm finding that, oh my God, there are such good and decent people on the internet, which without having this kind of community that has formed around me, I would not know that such good people existed on the internet. And so I'm so grateful for all of you guys, and everything that you guys bring to the table, to these conversations, the support you not only bring to me, but to each other. Don't let that stop. Don't let the end of the holidays, or maybe, things changing in 2021, don't let that stop that sense of community and togetherness and just solidarity. I hope that is something that we take from 2020 and bring into 2021, is knowing how to stand in solidarity with others, regardless of any differences. That's what I'm hoping 2020 will help teach me and you. And I'm excited. Let's see what the next year brings. I love you guys so much. Okay, thanks. Bye.